Hey guys, what's going on? Morgan Page here in the studio. I'm going to take a behind-the-scenes look at my new song. It's called Collusion. Did this along with Swanky Tunes, my boys from Mother Russia. So we called this Collusion because it's an American collaborating with some Russians. So why not? Why not call it Collusion? Really fun instrumental banger. There are some vocal elements in there, but it's really all about the drop. It's all about impact, and this is a mix that I've been hammering out live. So we're going to take a quick look behind the scenes of Collusion, and we're going to look at all the elements. So let's listen to it for just a minute. Alright, so the core of the song is this bass line that essentially is functioning like a lead. There's also another lead that comes on top of it, and then there's some dubstep wobbles in between that are sort of acting as fills. So in that third chorus, that third drop, there's a little bit of a counter melody. It's a little more throwback to Swedish House Mafia. So you've got a mix of the old and the new, and that's what I love with this track. So a little bit of that newer progressive house with a bass twist, but also some of the older progressive house from the golden era of EDM, Swedish House Mafia included. So there's a lot going on there, and I actually kind of had to battle for this with A&Rs at Armada. They wanted it to be just the bass line and not have the lead, but I thought the lead was really essential. So to me, the lead is this very triumphant, very melancholy element that was super important to have. So the drop starts without the lead, and then drops in the second part. So a lot of cool elements in there. The track started with some stems that Swanky Tunes sent over. They had some cool stuff that essentially was the chords in the breakdown and this little vocal snippet. They had some bass bits. Let's see if I can find these pads. Some flute sounds, some trance elements. So lots of tension, lots of drama in that breakdown. As my job was to come in and try to do something cool and uplifting with the drops. And it's funny when I do collaborations, sometimes people don't know who's doing what. They don't know who's doing the drop, who's doing the breakdown. Some people would assume that I'm doing the breakdown, other people are doing the drop, but this one, I did the drop. I did the wobble. That was a wobble in Serum, that little dubstep sound. So something a little atypical for me to do. But let's dive into the components and the layers that make up this bass lead sound. So a lot of low mid bass going on. Several layers there. Let's do layer by layer. So that's the center, kind of mono content. Sort of the mid side, sort of the width of the song, or of the bass on that. Next octave down, a little more sub, but not quite to the true sub. Then we add in the real sub. So that sub is really pumping it along. It's pulling along with the kick to provide that momentum, and it's always a choice you have to make. Do you want that sub to be constant? It's taking up lots of room. Do you want it to be short and staccato if you can? It's a always tricky decision to make. Okay, moving along to the main lead. It's Inspire. A lot of processing there, using LFO tool for the sidechain, using a lot of stock plugins, doing an interesting trick that John Christian was showing in some tutorials where you're using very short delays to delay the reverb, so pushing the reverb side to side, kind of ping-ponging that for space. That's a new trick. It's new to me that I'm just starting to use. This song is pretty aggressive. It's a pretty dirty master that I wanted it to have that impact. So I have a lot of Camel Crusher throughout. I love this. It's a free plugin. I hope that this, even though this company is bought by Apple, I hope that they continue to allow this version to work and it doesn't just suddenly break with operating system upgrades. So a lot of times I'm doing Serum. This was a pack I made for Serum, my splice pack. So all my presets are in there, and it was such a long effort to make these presets, but so worth it because I got to use them for all my own songs. So I have all these custom sounds. So that's one of my own. Yeah, actually, I think that may have started with Spire and then turned into Serum later on. So it is my Serum preset in there. Okay, so we've got those two main lead elements. I really like the Zebra plugin. The Hans Zimmer presets are amazing, and I use those for some string sounds. So adding that cinematic quality to it. Going back up here, there are some elements that are adding animation to the track, and there's a really cool plugin by Sick Individuals. It's called Focus One, and I use that on one of the pads to break it up and add some more staccato movement, animation, and elements to it. So it's adding a bit of a pulse there, which is cool to do. You can just slap that on plugins and beef them up, add more distortion, add more animation and movement. That's the original chord progression that Swanky Tunes sent over, and that's really what started the whole song. I loved that progression. They had a different drop, and so we kind of did a mashup of ideas. A little mix and match of both. Also, a cool technique I did on this that a guy named Capslap showed me how to do. If you're an Ableton user, you're going to love this, especially if you're using UAD plugins. I used a lot of UADs on this. I used the Precision Maximizer, SBL Twin, Twin Tube, Cambridge EQ, Manly Massive Passive. I used a lot of stuff to add some high-end because I really like their EQs. I love the effects. I used their Master Bus SSL processor on that. That's incredible. Always make sure to have that sidechain filter up so you're not compressing the lows as much. Some other stuff, isotope for widening, isotope ozone. But to be able to open up this session, I would, on the road with all these UAD plugins, I'd bring a UAD satellite, which is super handy. Brought one that has an Octo card in it. So if you're using UAD plugins and you're using anything else that's time-based that may add latency to the track, you want to make sure that your sidechain is right on the money. So to get the timing right, without having to create a million guide tracks, I put some MIDI notes on the quarter note there because it's just 4x4, and that's multing all of those out to the different buses where there are sidechains. So wherever there's LFO tool, wherever there's volume shaper, Anything else, I make sure those are enabled to accept that incoming MIDI note. Triggers it and knows exactly where the 1 is. Super important, especially when that delay compensation is enabled. Because sometimes what you'll see is when you have that off, it'll fall apart. It'll sound good without the compensation on. You turn the delay compensation back on, and everything falls apart, and all the timing is off, especially with a high buffer. So nerdy, but important point to make, and super important. And the beauty of that, saving this preset, is you're sending that MIDI region to multiple buses all at once. So if it was broken beat, you could break at the beat and change the trigger, the length, and how often it happens. So that's a lot better than doing individual sidechains. So that pretty much wraps up. That's my song Collusion. I did it with Swanky Tunes. It's out now on Armada Music. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial and you found some fun tips along the way. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.